Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby talked about that Russian convoy stalled miles outside the city. I just want to play some of that for our viewers.
That convoy that we talked about also has been stalled and slowed. And quite frankly, a big reason for that has been the Ukrainian resistance. They were able to hit some of those lead vehicles and get it to stop.
What's the latest that you've been hearing and seeing?
Well, the Pentagon, Anderson, saying that that not only is it stalled, but that it hasn't really moved, obviously, in the past few days since the weekend. It's stuck about 15 miles outside of Kyiv. And on top of the efforts that the Ukrainians and special forces in particular have made against those vehicles, there was also a bridge that was blown up that has caused them to stop, that has prevented their advance. But there are a number of factors that have gone into the fact that this convoy is pretty much at a standstill. I mean, think about how many days that we've been talking about this, and it stretched way out. And initially it was 3 miles. Now it's stretched way out to 40 miles. And you've heard military experts and former officials talking about them being sitting ducks out there. And so we have seen these Ukrainian forces managing to pick off a number of those vehicles. Given the fact that they are so stretched out and that they are relatively far from supply lines, we also know that the Russians have had a hard time refueling and getting food. And so the Pentagon believes that they are reassessing, that it may be too soon to say that they aren't making much progress. You still have a formidable amount of firepower in terms of the troops, the armored vehicles, and the artillery that are in that convoy. And so there is a real concern that they will play a significant part of an encirclement of Kyiv, which the Ukrainians believe is still Moscow's main priority. They said that just today, that the top priority is still to encircle Kyiv and to break through the resistance. So not only do we have that convoy that is north of Kyiv, we also have Russian forces to the west that the Ukrainians claim have been pushed back. We have seen some success by the Ukrainians against the Russian forces there, and the Ukrainians believe that they are calling up more resources to replenish their troops and their weaponry there. And Anderson, that is a very important point, because we keep hearing about the successes of the Ukrainians against the Russians, but the fact of the matter is the Russians have a much deeper reserve of power than the Ukrainians do. That's why the Ukrainians have been calling on everybody, not just in the country, but from outside the country, to come help them fight. The Pentagon believes that some 92% of the pre-positioned combat power of the Russians is now in Ukraine, and that they still have the vast majority of that combat power still in reserve. So despite the fact that the Russians have not made much progress here in Kyiv, there is still so much they can do. And Anderson, the belief is that because they may be frustrated on the ground, because they are getting pushed back on the ground,